TMZ, we got TMZ talking about some updates with David. Apparently, he's been rocking with a damn chainsaw. I don't know what that's about. Sounds wild, but let's get into it, man.
Well, Singer David's attorneys pressed the DA's office and said that they want a preliminary hearing as soon as possible. They didn't get the hearing yesterday, but what they got were the prosecutors laying out what they say is very damning evidence that proves David is the one who murdered Celeste Rivas Hernandez.
It is so odd. I haven't seen anything like this because next month there is going to be a preliminary hearing. You don't have to request it. It's automatic that there's a prelim. So the prosecution doesn't have to say, we're going to lay out what we're going to show in the preliminary hearing. You just do it. And they laid out their case in a document that they filed called the prosecution's preliminary hearing brief, which I've never seen. But for whatever reason, they wanted to lay out all the evidence they had.
They laid out from the entire timeline from when David and Celeste first met, when she was 11 years old, right through him leaving his car on the street with her remains in that car.
So let's go through it.
Top to bottom. They say that the crucial part as it relates to the murder is that they say in November of 2024, they broke up. Celeste and David broke up. They were still in contact with each other, but they were broken up, and it seems like she was mostly back home in Lake Elsinore. Then on April 22nd of 2025, they get into a fight, and the prosecutors say they have this all in text. A huge fight.
Wait, so they broke up in November. So then 5 months later, they get into an argument. So what does that mean? Were they still in contact the entire time, or they just randomly had an argument that just popped up 5 months later?
Where she is jealous about the fact that Elsinore. Then on April 22nd of 2025, they get into a fight, and the prosecutors say they have this all in text. A huge fight where she is jealous about the fact that David is seeing other women, and
Why is she jealous if they broke up? Did he break up with her, or did she break up with him? I'm assuming because he was a star that he probably broke up with her. Because I don't see a lot of average girls breaking up with guys that are big like that. You know what I mean? That are famous, uh, got money, and basically has a lot of status, basically. Unless they're abusive or something like that, I would assume.
she threatens him and says she's basically threatening to go public and reveal the fact that they have been in a sexual relationship.
Which she said.
Wait, this is April 22nd? If April 22nd, he was getting threats from her about possibly going public because she was upset about him being with other women. Now remember, they said that she was missing after April 23rd. So the next day she went, that's like the last time anybody's seen her. Ooh.
Having sex with a minor.
Which she says is good.
And she threatens him and says she's basically threatening to go public and
Wait, did he say he or she? Are we doing weird pronouns? Is that what we're doing? Did he say he or she threatened her? I mean, threatened him?
a huge fight where she is jealous about the fact that David is seeing other women, and she threatens him and says
He and she threatens him? What does that even mean?
she's basically threatening to go public and reveal the fact that they have been in a sexual relationship,
which
that
she
he's
said,
been having sex with a minor.
which he says is going to ruin his career.
Right.
And so that is
Wow.
for the prosecution's view, that's the trigger for what comes next.
Because
Yeah.
the other part is that on the 25th, he had his first album coming out. So, fight on the 22nd, 23rd, he sends an Uber to go pick her up in Lake Elsinore. The Uber picks her up at 8.
He had an album coming out on the 25th, and they basically saying that he sent an Uber on the 23rd, which is the next day after that argument, for her to get picked up and possibly come to his house. I'm guessing, so that way he can. Basically, they're trying to say that he decided to murder her after that to stop her from possibly ruining what he got going on.
8:40 p.m., gets to David's house at about 10:10 p.m. She gets dropped off. This is the moment where prosecutors say, as they described it, he is lying in wait in his home.
Was that an hour and a half Uber ride? 8:40 p.m. to about 10:10 p.m. That's an hour and a half, right? That's an hour and a half Uber ride. That's a long Uber ride, bro. If you paying for a girl to come see you, and there's an hour and a half ride, bro, you desperate, bro. You really desperate, bro. So he was desperate. That's desperation right there. Now I get it. He got money, but still. If you paying an hour and a half for some girl to come see you, you desperate, bro.
because they believe that when she walked in the door, very shortly after that, he stabs her, cuts her, stabs her, and watches her, as they describe it, watches her bleed out, makes no effort to save her, does not call any emergency services, and watches
Wow.
her die.
Can I just say, I want to stop you on that because he says, they say, he watched her bleed out. That's a very specific thing.
Yeah.
But there was nobody in that home, and
Yeah.
that's an interesting
Right.
thing.
It's the one sort of black hole in
Yeah.
their
Right.
story here because to this point, they've not said there's any witness
Right.
to
Was
that.
it was there a camera?
But at 10:30, interestingly, David starts texting, and they believe Celeste is already dead at 10:30.
Well, they also know the Uber showed up at 10:10.
Right.
So
and he stabs her, they say, and that she dies. At 10:30, he is texting Celeste's phone saying, "Hey, where are you? When are you getting here?" As if to, and they believe this is the start of
it's a
his
cover-up,
cover-up,
yeah.
right?
Oh, okay. Because the Uber arrived at like 10:10, so they can track the Uber driving and all that stuff. So if the Uber dropped her off at his crib at 10:10, then what do you mean? Why are you texting her 10:30 saying where are you? Unless y'all had a quick argument and she left and walked away. Maybe she ran out. Like maybe she stormed off. You know what I mean? That's the only way David could really argue that. Like she stormed off after like you had like a little 15-minute conversation and continuing the argument that you had the day before that she stormed off. And then now you texting her where like hey, where the hell did you go? I could see that. I could see that. Yeah, appreciate the follow. Appreciate the follow. I mean, is that what they're trying to say? Maybe it's that. Tatadollar? Tatadol over? Appreciate that.
1 hour later, he gets in his car and drives north to Santa Barbara County, to a remote area in Santa Barbara County. He is there most of the night. They suspect he's there disposing of some evidence, some of Celeste's belongings. He comes home
Wait. So when does he go over there? Hold up.
phone saying, "Hey, where are you? When are you getting here?" As if to, and they believe this is the start of
it's a
his
cover-up,
cover-up,
yeah.
right? 1 hour later, he gets in his car and drives north
An hour later, if he did dismember her, are you saying that he dismembered her within an hour?
to Santa Barbara County, to a remote area in Santa Barbara County. He is there most of the night. They suspect he's there disposing of some evidence, some of Celeste's belongings. He comes home early in the morning on the 24th, plops down and does an interview with a podcast to promote his album that's coming out the next
Wait. You telling me he did all that and then went and did an interview the next day?
He's there most of the night. They suspect he's there disposing of some evidence.
You said who are you defending? I'm not defending anybody. I'm trying to figure out what happened. Um, cause they saying they trying to say that he basically sent an Uber for her to come over to his house after they had an argument the day before, and the Uber arrived at like 10:10, and then at around 10:30 he started texting her phone saying where are you? So I'm trying to think, how would David explain that? The only thing I could think of him saying to explain that would be to say within that time frame that she arrived at 10:10, between 10:10 and 10:30, they probably had another argument based off of the argument that they had the previous day, and then maybe she stormed off. That's the only thing I can see him trying to use as an excuse as to why he was texting her, "Where are you?" Like she may have stormed off and left, and then maybe he's like didn't chase her right away, and then eventually went outside and realized she wasn't like in front of the building or whatever, and then start texting her, "Hey, where are you?" That's what I could think of him saying. I don't know what happened, but I'm trying to see how the hell would he defend that, right? But then after that, driving to some other place, some random location, an hour later in Santa Barbara, like they're saying, and saying he was there the most of the night. That's kind of funny. Now, if they find remains of her in that area where they said he was at when he went away an hour later, if they find remains of her over there, then obviously that does not look good for him at all.
Some of Celeste's belongings. He comes home county, to a remote area in Santa Barbara County. He is there most of the night. They they suspect he's there disposing of some evidence, some of Celeste's belongings.
Okay.
He comes home early in the morning on the 24th, plops down, and does an interview with a podcast to promote his album that's coming out the next day. And then things get weird because he starts ordering some things.
Well, this is where it looks really
Yes.
incriminating.
That's right. This is when he starts purchasing items to, according to prosecutors, dismember the body and start to dispose of it. He purchases a shovel from Home Depot that he has delivered via Postmates. He, a few days after that,
Oh, so he wasn't disposing her body that same night. They say he most likely just disposed items. So the next day after that little podcast interview, whatever he did, they said that he ordered stuff online. Was it on Amazon, they said?
Incriminating.
that's right. This is when he starts purchasing items to, according to prosecutors, dismember the body and start to dispose of it. He purchases a shovel from Home Depot that he has delivered via Postmates. He,
It's always Home Depot, bro. It's always Home Depot. I watch these type of videos all the time. These body cam videos, these investigation videos. It's always Home Depot. It's always you see them on the Home Depot camera or Walmart camera of them walking down the aisle, heading towards the register with a damn shovel in their hand or some type of cleaning products, like some type of like bleach or something like that. It's always those type of stores. You Every time a crime happens, just go to those stores and just look for whoever's in the shovel aisle. You know what I mean? Look for whoever's in the saw aisle. You know?
a few days after that, purchases 2 chainsaws on Amazon. He does so under an alias.
He buys chainsaws on Amazon, bro. Don't get me wrong, I love Amazon. You know, you can get same day delivery sometimes, most of the time next day. But they're saying he did it under an alias. So I don't know, did he create a brand new account just for that? Or did he use somebody else's account that he knows personally?
Another name,
A
Victoria
woman's
Mendez. They then say a couple days after that,
Wait, what's the name you said? You said Mendez?
an alias, another name, Victoria
woman's
Mendez. They then say a
A
couple
woman's name, basically.
days after that, he purchases a body bag, a laundry bag, and
A body bag? What? Wait, so you order a chainsaw and a body bag? Bro, you can't get more clear than that. And a shovel? What the hell are we talking about?
a body bag, a laundry bag, and an inflatable blue pool. Now, this is what's fascinating about the blue pool is when the body was discovered and it was dismembered. There's a note in the autopsy report that there were blue plastic fragments embedded in some of the body parts. The forensics team by the prosecutors has now matched. They say they've matched those blue fragments to the pool that was put down to protect the floor where he was dismembering the body.
So a lot of incriminating evidence.
Wait.
And it was dismembered. There's a note in the autopsy report that there were blue plastic fragments embedded in some of the body parts. The forensics team by the prosecutor.
Wow, so when he was chopping her up, they said there was some blue fragments from the inflatable pool. I'm guessing it's like a little kiddie pool that was found embedded in the body parts that they found. That's crazy. So what was the pool? You know what? Oh, okay. No, he was more than likely he was chopping her up inside of the inflatable pool, probably trying to keep control of like I guess the blood that would be coming out of her, trying to keep all the blood within the pool. But it's like a chainsaw and a plastic, wouldn't that like easily rip up the plastic and wouldn't it make that like wouldn't this defeat the purpose of having the pool if it's inflatable? I don't understand that.
Has now matched, they say they've matched those blue fragments to the pool that was put down to protect the floor where he was dismembering the body.
So a lot of incriminating evidence as to disposing of the body. So
Never did.
What's going to be interesting?
Wait, so if they match the inflatable plastic to her body, the same type that apparently they have evidence of him purchasing, that's the case right there. That's the case right there. If he purchased that and they find that in her, like, I mean, that seems like the case right there.
Here is, the defense is saying whatever he did, he didn't murder her.
Right.
And so that is what is going to be interesting. Are they going to say, yes, he dismembered the body? It's going to be real hard to say no. It's going to be real hard to say no because why do you have a chainsaw? Why do you have your body bags?
Honestly, even if he didn't murder her, right? Which, I mean, they said that she was stabbed up, right? Right? That's how they defined her death. They said that she was stabbed up. Now, if he didn't if he didn't murder her, right? If they was to go with that route, I mean, bro, he's he didn't call the police. He chopped her up. he he chopped up her body, bro, afterwards. Like, bro, how do you explain that? That's still a crazy thing to do. You still got to go do stuff, do time for that.
You know, why do you have a shovel? So that's going to be hard, but we don't know how they're going to show reasonable doubt on killing her.
Right. We don't know, but again, all of this that they've laid out seems like they have a mountain of evidence against David. So how in the world will his defense team mount a defense when this ends up in court? Joining us now to discuss this, someone who's been on both sides of the court as a former federal prosecutor and now a criminal defense attorney, Katie Cherkasky. Welcome back to TMZ Live. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
So, you know, circumstantial evidence can be enough. Is it enough here?
Well, from what has been released, it sounds like these investigators did a very solid job of connecting all the dots to this defendant, and it does not look good for him, needless to say. That started with the fact that the body was found in a car registered to him, so that certainly didn't help matters from the defense perspective. But at the end of the day, the prosecutors still have to prove that he was the one that committed these acts beyond a reasonable doubt. And like you said, it's circumstantial. There's not an eyewitness that says, as far as we know, that they saw this. However, the prosecutors have released very specific details that seems to indicate that they have put together a very detailed story, including very specific dates and incidents and Amazon orders that have brought it to this point where it looks like he might be backed up against the wall. But of course, there's always going to be a defense raised in any case.
Right. I mean, it seems what they have, Katie, is when you read the entire timeline, the entire story as they laid it out, they have very specific details up to the moment that Celeste arrives at his home on the evening of April 23rd. And then at 11:30 on April 23rd, they know that he leaves in his car. But in between there, really the only evidence that we know of that they have is what the ME has said, what the medical examiner said, report saying that she was stabbed and that there were 2 wounds in her abdomen that were different from what you would wounds that would be used in dismembering the body. Is that enough? Because they don't have the murder weapon and they haven't really placed that weapon in David's hand, at least from what they've laid out here.
Well, there's a couple of different ways that you can defend a criminal case, or really any case. And one is on the facts, whether they actually can prove up these charges. Is there some sort of alibi? Is there somebody else that was accessing the Amazon account? Right now, all we know is what the prosecution side of the story is. The defense is going to eventually have to put on a case. And so perhaps they have factual rebuttals to some of the evidence. And then on the other side of things, even if there's really bad facts, really bad evidence, it looks like somebody is essentially guilty, there's still very significant procedural issues that can come up. And the defense can try to exploit some of those. So whether the investigation was done properly, whether his constitutional rights were respected throughout, whether there's any issues with the searches or the evidence that they obtained as a result of that. Those are all very ripe issues that the prosecution has to be very careful in any case to not step into, because then a case can be kicked or something can happen to reduce it.
I bet. All right, we got another one that I want to look into right here. The law and crime one right here. This one right here is gonna be tough.
Renting in the house. After months of secrecy, prosecutors have just
get to
revealed
it, man.
brand new, never before seen, never before
going through all
heard
the David
alleged
stuff,
details
man.
in the horrific killing and disposal of a child's body in the David.
If you at work right now, just
Sexual
relax.
abuse of a child, a vicious stabbing, a
Relax your
grisly
mind.
alleged dismemberment with a
Let's figure this
chainsaw.
out, man. If you at
The
work,
allegations
let's
against
figure this out
singer-songwriter
together,
David
man.
are on full display in this new court filing, providing graphic new details about what LA prosecutors claim he allegedly did to this 14-year-old girl and why. Welcome to Sidebar.
If you at work or you just chilling somewhere,
Jesse Weber.
we're gonna figure this out.
Real quick before we go any further, I gotta tell you about our partner, Upside, okay? Upside is this app that gets you cash back, extra cash back on everyday purchases like gas, groceries, takeout. So here's what you do. You download Upside for free. You claim an offer at one of their 100,000 plus locations. You pay like normal with your card. You verify the purchase. And
Okay.
just like that, money back. So say I need to get gas or I want takeout one night. I'll search for Upside offers first. And after I spend, money
Okay.
clears my app that I can transfer right into my bank account. Now, Upside's frequent users, they earn an average of $254 back a year. So to start getting your cash back, click the link in the description. scan the QR code,
$254?
use
That's
promo
not
code
bad.
Sidebar to get an extra 25 cents bonus on every gallon on your first tank of gas.
Uh,
21-year-old David Anthony Burke, the singer known as David, who skyrocketed to fame with songs like Romantic Homicide, has had a spectacular fall from grace. Months after 14-year-old...
Yo, I never heard of this guy before this whole situation happened. I never even seen him on TV. I never heard his music. It's crazy. The first time I'm hearing about him is him being tied to some kind of murder. It's crazy.
Celeste Rivas Hernandez was found dead, her mutilated body reportedly found in David's Tesla at a Hollywood tow yard. Prosecutors have now charged David with first-degree murder, continuous sexual abuse of a child under 14, and unlawful mutilation of human remains. He's entered a not guilty plea. It's important to remember that he is innocent until proven guilty. I say that especially because it can be very hard to remember when we're about to get into these disturbing new alleged details that were revealed by prosecutors. And this is big because there has been so much secrecy to this case. I mean, remember, we just saw the autopsy report last week after it was sealed. In fact, we actually thought that we would have to wait for a preliminary hearing to learn any new details in this case. The preliminary hearing, of course, is where prosecutors try to present sufficient evidence to say, hey, look, we have enough evidence to move this case forward towards trial.
Okay.
And during an arraignment last week, his attorneys told the judge they wanted to get to that preliminary hearing right away.
We watched this
Counsel,
already.
On behalf of your client, do you waive formal reading of the complaint, advisement of rights, including armed forces and veterans' rights, and her plea of not guilty, denying any and all special allegations, enhancements, and priors?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you're requesting a preliminary hearing within the period?
Yes, Your Honor. From the media reports, apparently there have been 4 months of secret grand jury proceedings. We believe that Mr. Burke is entitled at the earliest opportunity to an open preliminary hearing and the proceedings not be done in secret. So we are asking for a preliminary hearing to be set at the earliest possible date on the 10th day. Your Honor, we believe the actual evidence will show David Burke did not murder Celeste Rivas Hernandez, nor was he the cause of her death. And we would like to be able to have the evidence come into the light of day at the earliest opportunity in order to establish that.
And that was seemingly to put the prosecutor's feet to the fire, right? What do you have? What's your evidence? There's been a lot of questions swirling over whether, you didn't get a grand jury indictment, right? Is there a weakness in this case? Remember, despite apparently multiple
March 28th. That boy in Aries. Damn, bro. You making us look bad out here, bro. Damn, bro. You making us look bad out here, bro. Not Aries, gang.
didn't get a grand jury indictment, right? Is there a weakness in this case? Remember, despite apparently multiple secret grand juries considering this case, evaluating evidence, hearing evidence, for whatever reason, they chose not to indict, or maybe they weren't asked to indict. Could have just been an investigative grand jury or investigative grand juries, which means now it's up to prosecutors to convince the court in a preliminary hearing that there's enough evidence to move this case towards trial. The defense will have an opportunity to challenge that. But when David's attorneys returned to court yesterday to discuss when a preliminary hearing would happen, they said the original date of Friday, this Friday, was in fact too soon. They haven't had nearly enough time to review the huge amount of evidence to challenge it at a hearing.
Okay.
So this preliminary hearing has been pushed back to May 26th. But that's not even the big news. This is what I have in my hands. Because for the first time, prosecutors are laying out some of the alleged evidence they have against David.
Let's hear
and
it.
what they claim they could prove at an eventual trial. And I will warn you right now, the claims in this document are incredibly disturbing. Allegations that he stabbed this 14-year-old girl to death to keep her from revealing that he had been sexually abusing her. That's the allegation. That he allegedly used a chainsaw to cut up her body in an inflatable kiddie pool in the garage. More details regarding this alleged secret, illegal sexual relationship. More importantly, for the prosecution's case, what evidence they have to prove that. And that's what I want to get into. So according to investigators, Celeste was last seen or heard from on April 23rd, 2025, when David, according to prosecutors, sent a rideshare car to pick her up from her hometown of Lake Elsinore and bring her back to the home that he was apparently renting in the Hollywood Hills, a trip of more than 80 miles. Prosecutors claim she was exchanging messages with David during this ride. And then she apparently never uses the phone again. Celeste's dismembered body was found months later on September 8th in a Tesla Model X, allegedly registered to David. And according to this filing, the car had been parked on the street just 400 feet from where David was staying, and then it was towed. The manager at the tow yard reported a horrific smell, flies around the front trunk, and that's when authorities discovered Celeste's body. According to this document, it's called the People's Brief regarding preliminary hearing evidence, quote, surveillance video and other evidence confirm defendant, meaning David, was the last person to drive the vehicle on July 29th, 2025, before he left Los Angeles on a concert tour. So that's about, what, a month or so before the car was towed and the body was found? It's not clear if anyone else actually moved the car or had any knowledge of what was reportedly inside. I want you to keep that in mind. We're going to talk about it later. There's something in the filing that I thought was really interesting. But
you know what's so funny? I think people are saying like, oh, like he had like some master plan to like just leave her in the car, and I mean, I don't think leaving her in the car was the end game. And when people say, oh, he's so stupid, why would he leave her in the car and go to the concert? I don't think that was the end game. I don't think leaving her in the car and then going on a damn world tour or whatever was the end game. I don't think he was stupid enough to think that was the play. I think honestly, I think he literally just ran out of time. Whatever his plan was, I think he just ran out of time. He probably had a schedule with the tour and everything, and the timeline of what he felt he needed to do in order to completely dispose of her body, it just he just didn't have time to finish that, and he couldn't postpone his tour, so he just had to go and just hope nobody bothered the car. I think that's what it was. And I guess he figured that if he leave the car on a certain street where he doesn't have to move it for street cleaning or whatever, he figured nobody would bother it. But you got them nosy neighbors that point out the car, and they that basically complain and try to get the car towed because it's been sitting there for so long. They think it's abandoned. And I know all about that because in Long Island, I had a car that I had parked for weeks, and my neighbor across the street started complaining about the car being parked, even though the car wasn't bothering nobody. It wasn't in nobody's way. It was just parked in front of my house. But the neighbor had an issue because the car was never moved, so she thought it was just abandoned and thought it was making the neighborhood look bad by just being an abandoned vehicle there. So a nosy neighbor basically got David's car towed basically and set this whole thing off. So I guess some nosy neighbors, can be a positive as far as this situation is concerned.
Say, quote, at the tow yard, LAPD detectives opened the Tesla's front storage compartment and observed a black cadaver bag covered in insects. Inside the bag, they discovered a severely decomposed head and torso. A plastic garbage bag beneath the black cadaver bag contained the dismembered arms and legs. However, the victim's ring and pinky fingers on her left hand had been amputated and were not found in the Tesla. On September 16, 2025, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Department positively identified the body from dental records as belonging to the victim.
They're saying that her I think her ring finger had a tattoo, like a matching tattoo of one of David's finger tattoos, I believe. I think both of them had the same matching tattoo or something. And I guess maybe they're trying to say that maybe he removed those fingers specifically to basically remove the connection, that would be easy to identify who she is as far as, them having a connection basically.
But this is the part that's new, okay? The filing claims that LAPD robbery homicide detectives determined that Celeste and David met in January of 2022 when she was just 11 years old, that he allegedly began a sexual relationship with Celeste.
As far as them meeting in January 2022, I don't think they met physically. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they met physically. I think he just met her online. Like met her on, I think it was Discord possibly, like that app where you can communicate. Um, I think he met her on Discord.
When she was 13, David was 18, and the court.
So they're saying when she was 13 and David was 18, that's when they started having an intimate, like actual physical relationship.
Paperwork revealed that investigators have been looking into David for quite some time. The filing says detectives learned the victim had been reported missing to the Riverside County Sheriff's Department by her family, who live in Lake Elsinore, in February and April 2024. RCSD telephonically contacted defendant on February 17, 2024, after they identified a phone number in the victim's phone records that belonged to him. During the call, defendant claimed he had spoken to the victim last on February 13th or 14th, 2024, but stated he was unaware she was a minor or that she had been reported missing. RCSD advised him that Los Angeles Sheriff's Department deputies would be coming to his home. On that day, defendant was living at 804 North Doheny Place in West Hollywood. RCSD requested that LASD conduct a welfare check at defendant's home. LASD deputies went to defendant's home that night at 8:15 p.m. and informed him the victim was a 13-year-old runaway. Defendant again claimed he was unaware she was a minor and he had only met the victim once in person in November of 2023. However, defendant showed deputies a yearbook photo of the victim he had on his cell phone. Although he claimed to be unaware of where the victim was at the time, she returned home 2 days later. By the way, you're seeing how in-depth this investigation was, and maybe kind of gives us an idea of why it took so long for there to be an arrest and for these charges and for the evidence to develop. But remember, prosecutors claim he killed her to keep her quiet about this supposed relationship, to not have her expose him to ruin his career. Just keep that in mind. So the filing continues, quote, despite being informed by law enforcement the victim was only 13, defendant continued to pursue her. After the victim returned home in February 2024, her parents took her cell phone away. Defendant drove to Lake Elsinore and paid a junior high school student in the victim's class $1,000 to give the victim a cell phone defendant purchased so they could stay in contact. Throughout 2024, the victim spent a significant amount of time with defendant, including summer weekends at his home in the Hollywood Hills and traveling with him to Las Vegas, London, and Texas to meet his family.
So the parents took her phone away. The parents took her phone away. Why did it take her phone away? Was it so she don't interact with him anymore, or was it for something else? And obviously, he kept on pursuing her after the cops came to his house and told him, "Hey, she's missing, and we're doing a welfare check at your house to see if she came to see you. We want to know if you have her." And he's like, "Nah, she's not here." But I didn't know she was 13. Apparently, that's what he said. But even after that situation with the police, he still pursued her afterwards. Went to her junior high school, which sounds crazy to say it out loud. Went to her junior high school and he paid a classmate of hers $1,000 to give her a cell phone so that way he could stay in contact with her. So he bought her a brand new phone, or at least he gave her a new phone that he can keep in contact with her with. And then it says throughout 2024, the victim, which is Celeste, spent a significant amount of time with David, including summer weekends at his home in the Hollywood Hills and traveling with him to Las Vegas. From California to Las Vegas. They went to London. Wait, how did they go to London? She had a passport. Las Vegas, unless she took a private jet or something. But wait, but how did she go to? She's 13 years old. How is she leaving the country with this kid? Wait, she's 13 years old. It's one thing if you leave the state from California to Las Vegas. That's like a couple hours drive, right? She could lie and say she's at a friend's house. But if you go into a whole other country, London, that means you're gone for days. How does the parents not know about that? Do her parents not know about that? That doesn't make sense to me. And David also took her to Texas to meet his family. But by family, does he mean like his parents? And if his parents met her, did his parents not realize that, hey, this girl looks a lot younger than what you should be dating? So was his parents okay with him dating a 13-year-old? That's a lot to unpack right there. That's a lot to unpack right there, bro.
So now I'm thinking travel records, right? I'm thinking how in-depth this investigation was. And by the way, this is the first time we're hearing just how often Celeste was with, or allegedly was with, this much older man. And it really speaks to how many people were potentially aware that he was maybe in this relationship with a younger girl, right? Members of online forums that David and Celeste were reportedly part of have said they didn't know Celeste was so young, thinking she was David's age. But if she was traveling with him to different places and meeting these people in a circle, did none of them suspect that something was maybe amiss here? I mean, again, assuming these allegations are true. You go back to the filing, quote, text exchanges between the victim and defendant contain references to sex, pregnancy, abortion, and use of the Plan B emergency contraceptive. There are also explicit photographs documenting and corroborating their sexual relationship. In November 2024, defendant and the victim broke up, although they continued to communicate, and text messages suggest they also continued to have sexual relations. See, that's the kind of alleged evidence that is incredibly compelling. What separates this from other cases of, let's say, a he said, she said, right? That's the kind of alleged evidence that supports the sex charge, but goes to the special circumstances of killing a witness, right? Remember, to support the special circumstances allegations, which you would get life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder charge or the death penalty, allegedly killing her because she's a witness to this, or allegedly killing her to silence her, it's evidence of this purported sexual relationship that's really problematic, or potentially really problematic for David.
And by the way, I have to tell you, this just came out at the time of this recording. So the death certificate for Celeste, and this is per reporting from TMZ, there's a change. It used to say that she was not pregnant. Now it's saying that section is marked U for unknown. So what is this suggesting? That it was possible she could have been pregnant? Not entirely clear.
Per prosecutors, quote, April 23rd, 2025 is the likely date of the victim's death and when all her cellular activity ceased. The night prior, April 22nd, 2025, defendant and the victim engaged in a lengthy argument described in detail in their text messages. The messages reveal the victim's jealousy over defendant's relationships with other women, as defendant led her to believe they had a future together. She became extremely upset and threatened to disclose damaging information about her relationship with defendant to end his career and destroy his life. Defendant's first studio album...
Yo, I gotta say this, man. Women, y'all gotta stop doing that, bro. Y'all gotta stop doing that. I'm talking about like grown women do this too. Like, you get into a situation with the man you're with, And rather than just, he doesn't want to be with you anymore or whatever it is, y'all breaking up, why do we have to go towards the path of destruction? Like, why can't we just walk away clean? Why can't we just walk? Why do we have to go down the path of destruction? You know what? Oh, you don't want to be with me no more? I bet I'm gonna destroy your property, or I'm gonna destroy your image, or I'm gonna do something to get you fired from your job, or why do we gotta go down the path of destruction? Can anybody leave a comment letting me know why? Why do we do that? Why can't we just, all right, bet you don't want to be with me? All right, bet. Good luck finding somebody as good as me. And just walk away with pride. Just walk away with some dignity, you know? Why can't we do that? And I'm sure there's some guys out there that do that as well. They can't handle being rejected or dumped or not getting their way, and then they do some foolishness to try to get revenge based off of how they feel. But I know a lot of women that they go down that route. I'm speaking from experience too. I had somebody who went down that route, and I'm like bro, I've never done anything to destroy anything you got going on. Like, what does what I got going on have to do with us no longer working out? Like, why are we extending this to things that have nothing to do with this? Like, help me out, man. You know what I mean? And it looks like that's what they're saying Celeste did. And obviously, with her going down that path, that's obviously what triggered. That seems like that's what the prosecution is trying to use as the trigger that sent David into this mindset of, okay, I have to eliminate you now. Like, y'all playing, she was playing with his life. Now, I'm not saying he was in the right for everything that he did. Clearly, he's in the wrong. Clearly. But he's viewing it as she's about to ruin his life. So guess what? He ruins hers. Right? And now both of their life is ruined if they happen to prove that he did all this stuff. And it's just like we gotta learn to walk away, man. And obviously she's young. You know, she doesn't know anybody. She's still learning. So she's crashing out. But I know grown women that's in their late 20s that do the same stuff. Like, come on now, we got to just walk away. We can't just, all right, we breaking up. I know I'm going on a tangent right now, but bro, it's crazy. Like, it's really crazy out here. Anyway,
was due to be released on April 25th, 2025, so 2 days later. He had an emerging multi-messaging information about her relationship with defendant to end his career and destroy his life. Defendant's first studio album was due to be released on April 25th, 2025, so 2 days later. He had an emerging multi-million-dollar career already in progress. He also had multiple product endorsements which were highly profitable. I mean, to give you an idea about what was at stake and what the prosecution may use at trial or a preliminary hearing, I mean, we told you in an episode yesterday that after David was arrested on murder and mutilation charges, the video game Fortnite announced it was going to refund players who made David-related purchases in the game, saying in a statement, we hear the concerns. We have a bunch of changes we're rolling out over time. The first one will be available on Tuesday, April 28th, when anyone who purchased one of these items will be able to get an immediate self-service refund. And right now, players who request refunds for David Cosmetics via...
I mean, I see what Fortnite trying to do here. Obviously, they're trying to wash their hands with David. Like, whatever collaborations they have with him, they're trying to be like, hey, we're not trying to have any connections to that kid anymore, considering what they are finding out as far as what happened or what may have happened. But honestly, I mean, whenever Fortnite did their collaborations with David, this was before all of this. I don't think Fortnite should be like apologizing and being on this crazy like refund tour off of something that they didn't even know anything about, something that happened after they collabed, you know, with them. Now I don't know, maybe they collabed with David after she disappeared during the midst of all this, but obviously Fortnite didn't know about this when all this was happening. I mean, if they want to say, hey, you can't we're removing the items or the collab items, whatever, off the shelf, off the digital shelf, so you can't purchase this anymore. We're ending that collab. But to refund, I don't think Fortnite should have to refund, because obviously they didn't know, nobody knew, So, but anyway.
Player support can be refunded. And according to reporting from the Houston Chronicle, David's song, Locked and Loaded, became the game's first official theme song in 2025. Now he's being canceled across the board. You have companies like Universal Music Group working to remove the songs that he apparently did in collaboration with their artists from streaming platforms. And I say all that because, again, think about what was going on in his life. Think about the height of his career at that time. I have to imagine the prosecutors are going to use this to establish the narrative that he couldn't let Celeste expose him, right? Again, these are just allegations. This is the prosecution's narrative, but you see where they're going. So investigators contend that April 23rd was when Celeste was killed, soon after arriving at that house in the Hollywood Hills. Quote, at approximately 8:40 p.m. on April 23rd, 2025, defendant sent an Uber to transport the victim from her Lake Elsinore home to his residence. They communicated before and during her Uber ride, which dropped her off at defendant's Hollywood Hills home around 10:10 p.m. At approximately 10:30 p.m., defendant sent text messages to the victim inquiring where she was. The people contend this was part of defendant's premeditated plan to cover up the murder, as she was already dead by this time. If that's true, that is a quick turnaround from when she arrived to when she was killed, right? And that goes to that premeditation aspect, lying in wait. Quote, knowing he had to silence the victim before she ruined his music career as she had threatened, very soon after her arrival at his home, defendant stabbed the victim to death multiple times and stood by while she bled out. At no time did he call law enforcement or 911 or take her to an emergency room to attempt to save her life. Despite knowing she was dead and her family was trying to find her, the evidence will show defendant lied and claimed he didn't know where she was. In fact, defendant drove to Santa Barbara County. This is something we've always talked about before. Drove to Santa Barbara County immediately after the victim died, attempting to dispose of her property and destroy evidence. At approximately 11:30 p.m. on April 23rd, 2025, he drove away from his home as he texted and called the victim's phone asking where she was. Again, these were acts calculated and planned to set up his defense within a very short timeline after the victim's vicious murder. Defendant drove his Tesla north on the 101 freeway to San Marcos Pass Road, SR 154, near Lake Cachuma in Santa Barbara County. He returned home early the following morning on April 24th, 2025, before going to a radio interview for the release of his album that week. He sent two additional
Well, so wait a minute. Again, you after the victim drove his Tesla north on returned home early the following morning. He returned home early the following morning. So that means he was out there for hours. He was out there for hours doing what exactly though? Before going to a radio interview for the release of his album that week. He sent two additional texts to the victim's phone that day, which obviously went unanswered because she was already dead.
Text to the victim's phone that day, which obviously went unanswered because she was already dead. After April 26, 2025, defendant never attempted to contact her again. And if that's true, that would be strange, right? Because if that's the case and he had no idea what happened to her, wouldn't he be desperately trying to get a hold of her? I think that's an argument that would be put forward by prosecutors. And then the filing gets into the incredibly disturbing details of how David allegedly cut Celeste's body into pieces. Quote, tellingly, defendant subsequently purchased tools to carry out his plot to dismember or dispose of the victim's body. On April 24, 2025, defendant ordered a shovel from Home Depot that was delivered to his home from Postmates. On May 1st, 2025, defendant ordered and subsequently Amazon...
Wait, so he ordered a shovel from Home Depot. This is like the day after, basically, because she came over on the 23rd. And then 11:30 at night, he went out, was doing whatever he was doing, came back early that morning of the 24th, did his little interviews or whatever, and then he started ordering shovels from Home Depot.
Delivered two chainsaws to his home.
And then on May 1st, defendant ordered and Amazon delivered two chainsaws to his home. So... Wait, so he ordered the shovel first from Home Depot on the 24th, and then about a week later, he orders two chainsaws.
On May 5th, 2025, defendant ordered and Amazon subsequently delivered a body bag.
And then about 4 days later, he orders a body bag? A body bag? And then a heavy-duty laundry bag?
Heavy-duty laundry bags and a blue inflatable pool to his home. He made these purchases under the fake name Victoria Mendez.
Wait, so where was her body this entire time? Because this all happened like a week later at least. So where was her body this entire time? If he stabbed her up, where did he keep her body?
May 8th, 2025, defendant returned to the same area in Santa Barbara County, leaving his home around 11:30 p.m. He returned to the area again on May 31st, 2025. This is an isolated site off S.
Wait. He made these purchases under the fake name Victoria Mendez, and then on May 8th, defendant returned to the same area in Santa Barbara County. Okay, that's the same area that he went to that same night that they're saying that he killed her, that he ended her, right? And then they said he went there, leaving his home around 11:30 p.m. at night. Again, it's always 11:30 p.m. Why is it 11:30 p.m.? Is this something that happens after 11:30 p.m. over there? And it says he returned to the area again on May 31st. Wait. So he went to the same area again like 3 weeks later? This is an isolated site off SR 154 where the victim's identification was subsequently discovered on January 2026. Okay.
SR 154, where the victim's identification was subsequently discovered in January 2026. Additionally, on July 7th, 2025, defendant ordered and subsequently Amazon delivered a burn cage to his home under the same fake name as part of his.
A burn cage. Is that something that you use to burn, like, to burn things? Like to burn like a body or something like that? Possibly?
Plan to incinerate evidence. We've talked about that before with Steve Fisher, the private investigator. Quote, moreover, defendant took horrifying measures to destroy and discard the victim's body. After placing her body into the blue inflatable pool to prevent her blood from spilling onto his garage floor, defendant used a chainsaw and perhaps other tools to cut off her limbs. Small blue plastic fragments were found embedded in the victim's remains, which were collected by the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Department. The fragments were analyzed by the LAPD's Forensic Science Division Trace Analysis Unit. An expert was able to match a physical fit match from the blue fragments to the blue inflatable pool purchased by defendant in May 2025. In order to distance himself from the victim, he amputated her left ring and pinky fingers because her ring finger contained a tattoo of his name.
Wow.
Her fingers have not been recovered. Defendant then placed her head and torso into the cadaver bag he purchased. He placed her limbs into a garbage bag, which he deposited into his front trunk, laying the cadaver bag on top. For several weeks or possibly months, defendant left the victim's body to decompose inside his Tesla. Let me stop right there. As you can see, prosecutors are going to claim they have digital evidence, forensic evidence, purchase history to all support this. I have to imagine this will be challenged by the defense with their own experts. And if there's certain items of evidence, body parts that are missing, they'll try to make room for reasonable doubt. But it's really, you're seeing now how they are building this case and what they've been.
I guess my main question now is like, where was her body that whole first like week and a half between the time that apparently he ended her life and the time that he got the chainsaw and the little kiddie pool, the blue kiddie pool that he got? Because he got all that stuff like a week and a half later. So where was her body that entire time? Was she just bleeding out in the tub or something? Like what was that about?
Doing. I mean, Steve Fisher talked about, what was it, like 54 search warrants were issued in this case. And this, by the way, is all important because we always wondered, did David have help, right? This is a monumental alleged task, allegedly done by a 20-year-old singer by himself. But I will tell you, the filing does make you question if maybe, you know what? Maybe he did allegedly act alone. The filing states that David, quote, lied to friends, business associates, and others about the strong smell of decay in and around the home and the car. When LAPD served the search warrant at the house after Celeste was identified, they reportedly found all sorts of evidence in the garage to support dismemberment, including biological evidence that tested positive for blood. They say it matched the victim's unique genetic profile, as well as the inflatable pool, which had these multiple, quote, linear cuts. And I want to go through the list of evidence that the state provides, which it says will be able to present at trial to prove David's guilt. Again, allegations, but let me go through this. And by the way, photos and videos of some of that evidence was released on X by private investigator Steve Fisher, who's been on this case from the beginning. He was hired by the owner of the Hollywood Hills home that David was apparently renting, who had a lot of questions about just what was going on at this property when Celeste's body was found, and the Tesla was allegedly connected back to the singer. But since then, I've spoken with Steve many times about what he's been able to uncover, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. But back to this evidence list. First, quote, the description of photographs depicting the victim naked, as well as while she was engaged with defendant in sexual activity when she was 13. As this evidence constitutes child sexual abuse material, the photographs themselves will not be presented. While all possible charges that could be proven were not filed, the CSAM is proof of their ongoing sexual relationship while the victim was 13 and 14 years old. I also do wonder if you're looking at potential federal charges here. Quote, numerous text messages between defendant and the victim evidencing their sexual relationship, pregnancy, abortion, use of Plan B, emergency contraception. Messages through March 2025 prove defendant continued to manipulate the victim as she messaged, all we do is have sex and just hang out, man. I want more than that for myself. These messages were obtained from defendant's iCloud data. Defendant's.
So it's not like they're basically saying that she was complaining. She was complaining about their relationship just being physical. All we do is have sex and just hang out, man. I want more than that for myself. Um, it sounded like she wanted more of a commitment than that. But he said that they ended up breaking up in like November of 2024, which is about 5 months before she apparently got her life ended by him. So it's like I'm trying to think, did she break up with him because she felt like they weren't going anywhere, or he wasn't allowed? Well, then again, he couldn't make it more of a committed relationship because obviously he knows he can't be seen with her in public because of the age gap. Not even the age gap, but because of the illegal relationship that they had. Hey, appreciate you for the follow, Sky Level. So it sounds like she wanted more out of the relationship right here. She was complaining about all they do is just hang out and hook up. But that's all, even though technically that's not what they should be doing at all, that's all that David could do because he can't be popping out with her. Because obviously that's obviously a no-no, right? For him. So clearly he wasn't trying to do anything more than that.
Data. Defendant's cellular activity and communications derived from defendant's iPhone and Tesla, which demonstrate defendant's activities from April 22nd, 2025 to April 24th, 2025, including a trip to Santa Barbara County in the middle of the night after.
Wait, defendant's cellular activity, defendant, okay, that's David. His cellular activity and communications derived from defendant's iPhone and Tesla. That's crazy. Doing a crime with a Tesla is crazy, bro. Tesla is like a damn computer, bro. Anywhere you go, anywhere you go, we gonna know where you going, bro. You said Chainsaw Man? Are you dead ass? Yo, for real, my man out here he ordered two chainsaws. He ordered two chainsaws to basically separate her body parts. That's crazy. Off of Amazon. He used a fake name or whatever, but still, like they still figured that out. How old was she? She was like 13 or 14 at the time. That shit is crazy. Let's see. Which demonstrate defendant's activities from April 22nd to April 24th, including a trip to Santa Barbara in the middle of the night after the victim arrived at his Hollywood Hills home.
After the victim arrived at his Hollywood Hills home. Surveillance video of defendant driving his Tesla on July 29, 2025, for the last time before parking the vehicle and leaving on tour at the end of July.
If they have evidence of him driving that Tesla for the last time before it was parked, I mean, and they don't see anybody moving that car after he parked it, or getting to it or touching that car after he parked it, then bro, you tell that's clearly you driving the car with a body in it. Like you don't smell that? Like you don't know that there's a body in your trunk?
Steve Fisher shared the surveillance video after the hearing on X.
This is the video? Oh shit. So hold up. That shit looked, damn, this shit was dusty as hell. It looked like this car has just been sitting. Look at all that dust on the windshield. You can't really see. I'm trying to. I think I could see this look like hair right here, like black hair. That could be his little afro that he been rocking. Yeah, I mean it looks like an afro, right? This is crazy, bro. Yeah, this right here clearly looks like him. It looks like an afro right there. That looks like a little mini fro right there for sure.
The hearing on X.
That looks like that could really be him driving for sure.
Really showing the Tesla one of the last times it was
This is
driven.
gonna sound crazy, I know.
Dismembered remains were inside that front trunk. And the list of potential evidence continues, quote, DNA evidence developed from blood stains collected from defendant's garage, which matched the victim's genetic profile, proof of defendant's Amazon purchases and deliveries to his residence, including 2 chainsaws, a body bag, an inflatable pool, heavy-duty laundry bags, a burn cage after April 24th, 2025. Steve also shared photos of some of these alleged packages. You can see the deliveries are addressed to Victoria Mendez. Not clear why David would allegedly use that particular name. Quote, proof of defendant's purchase.
He used that name because he didn't want it to be in his name. Duh. That's why he used that name. He didn't want to order a body bag, two chainsaws, a damn kiddie pool, you know, and a shovel or whatever in his name. You said, but part of the blame is also on the parents because she ran away multiple times and the parents didn't even try to stop it or lock her down. So something like she's 13, you should know where your child is 24/7. Sky, I agree. I agree. Her parents should know where her kid is, should know where their kid is 24/7, especially 13 years old. When I was 13 years old, I remember I had to be home like by like 7 o'clock the latest, or definitely before it got dark out. I had to be home before it got dark out. And I remember I used to be at my cousin's house, my best friend's house. We're sitting there playing Halo, or we playing Super Smash Brothers. As soon as the room starts getting a little too dark to the point where we got to turn the light on, I knew it was time to go home. You know what I mean? But apparently Celeste, she's getting flown out to London with David. How are you going into a whole nother country? Your parents gotta know that you're in another country, right? Your parents gotta know. Ain't no way your parents don't know where you are for days. Yes, London. They showed that David took her to Las Vegas. David took her to Texas, apparently to meet his family, which that's a whole nother thing to unpack. How your family looking at you when you got this girl? They don't ask you how old this girl is, unless you lying about her age to your family, right? Now I get it. Some people look older than they are, but you know, how did she get a passport, right? Unless she already had a passport. You know what I mean? Unless she already had a passport. I don't know. But still, it's kind of crazy, bro. And unless they took a private jet, I don't understand, bro. But all right, let's continue.
Purchase and delivery from Postmates of a shovel from Home Depot to his home on April 24th, 2025. Uber records showing defendant's transaction where he ordered an Uber to pick up the victim from her Lake Elsinore home and transport her to his residence the night of April 23rd, 2025. Proof of defendant's lucrative career as a singer-songwriter prior to April 23rd, 2025. Defendant had an album release party on the night of April 24th, 2025 before embarking.
He had an album release party the day after she died? Wow. That boy had everything on the line. He had everything on the line. He did not want all that to get messed up over her.
On an international tour in late July 2025. Text message exchanges between defendant and the victim on April 22nd and April 23rd, 2025, where the victim threatened to expose defendant and destroy his career. The prosecution has issued numerous subpoenas and is prepared to proceed with preliminary hearing. Now, as I mentioned before, the court, again, decided to push this back to May 26th, and the delay was frustrating for a lot of people, including Steve Fisher. He's been very vocal on social media about what seemed to be a lack of transparency, a slow investigation on the part of authorities. Remember, David wasn't arrested until 1 year after, when prosecutors believe Celeste was killed. She was last seen or heard from in April 2025. Her body was found in the Tesla in September, and then David was taken into custody, 10 days ago? So yesterday, after the delay, he tweeted, quote, from the David hearing continued until May 26th. The speedy preliminary was a bluff by the defense. The game of hide the ball from the public has started. The judge agreed to put a protective order on the search warrants and affidavits, as well as the grand jury transcripts. So much for an open and transparent system. David's defense even asked for a simple brief to be sealed. After running the worst PR campaign in history the last 7 months, not coming out with a single statement supporting their client, the defense now thinks the public will form a poor opinion of their client if the public sees any of the discovery. His lawyers seem more like publicists than criminal trial litigators. Hashtag Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Now, I had a chance to speak with Steve, as well as certified death investigator Joseph Scott Morgan, last night on my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live, and they talked more about these alleged grisly details. Take a listen.
We did find a chainsaw. We found a burn cage, and we knew that they were ordered in the name of this Victoria Mendez. And we disclosed that it was, in a fake name, and but we didn't know if that was a real person or not. However, all these things, and there was more things that were delivered to the house in that name, and we couldn't get past the chainsaw or the burn cage. Just there was no reasonable use to have it there.
I've had a couple of cases involving chainsaws over the course of my career, and I'll just put it to you this way: the deposition of tissue and blood, because with a regular handsaw, you might get a little tissue, you're gonna have a lot of blood. This is going to sling actual tissue everywhere, and so the idea that this could be cleaned up completely.
Oh, that's gonna be messy. I get what he's saying. He's saying that if he's using a chainsaw, at least this specific type of chainsaw, to chop up a body, you're chopping up flesh. You're chopping up. Well, obviously he chopped up some of the kiddie pool, the little blue kiddie pool that he used to, like, I guess, cut her body up inside of. I guess the kiddie pool was used to, like, collect whatever blood that leaves the body, so that way it doesn't get all over the place, all over the floor, make it easier to clean up later. But a chainsaw is spinning, so whatever you're chopping, whether it's spinning that way up or spinning down, whatever you're chopping, it's gonna it's so wild and fast. Some stuff is gonna go places where you're not even gonna see where it's going. Skin is gonna fly certain areas, you're not gonna see where it's going. Blood, even the damn kiddie pool fragments. So basically, when they come and actually do like all the DNA testing in the area of where they believe the crime scene was, of when this, dismemberment may have happened, they're gonna be able to find these fragments of skin and blood and the plastic from the kiddie pool. So that's basically what he's saying right here.
A little tissue, you're gonna have a lot of blood. This is going to sling actual tissue everywhere. And so the idea that this could be cleaned up completely, there's no way. No way.
Absolutely horrific to think about. And I will just say, our hearts, our prayers, our thoughts are really going out to Celeste's family at this time. We've all been, demanding answers, but to finally learn some of these gruesome alleged details about what purportedly happened to their loved one, that's a different kind of torture, right? And the teen's family has not yet spoken publicly about the case per se. They did release a statement through their attorney after David's arrest saying, "We would like to thank the Los Angeles Police Department and the District Attorney's Office for their hard work. We would also like to thank the people of Lake Elsinore for all their support. Celeste was a beautiful, strong girl who loved to sing and dance. Every Friday night was movie night, and we spent wonderful times together. We love her very much, and she always told us that she loved us. We miss her deeply. All we want is justice for Celeste." And I also spoke with Steve for an episode of Sidebar yesterday to get his take on the dozens of search warrants reportedly filed in this case I mentioned before, but take a look. Let me ask you this, 54, 55 search warrants, is that unusual? I mean, that seems like a lot. And why, how specific do you think each one was? What do you think they were for?
Well, you definitely are going to have, Apple with iCloud and his individual devices.
Yeah.
I can tell you that he does have a lot of actual devices, a lot of phones. And then you're going to have Google and stuff like that. But there was a search warrant issued as late as April 20th, so after his arrest. And there was another one that looks like it falls on like the 5th or the 6th of April. So they were issuing search warrants right up. I think there was a total of 7 that I saw that were issued in 2026.
Do you think that's something he had on him at the time of the arrest, or something at the property where he was arrested?
I think they probably had some sort of I think that when they arrested him, they cataloged what was there, and then they got a warrant immediately, kind of like they did with the car originally. They went there, they verified that there was a smell in the car, they immediately got a search warrant to enter the car. Probably the same thing. And Beth alluded to that. Actually, she said that she didn't know at the time if there was gonna be significance from those returns or not.
Let me ask you this: do you think that those warrants also include materials possessed by other individuals that are not David?
Certainly, I definitely think there's going to be at least cloud type of data, other Facebook account or Instagram accounts, Meta, let's call it, and iCloud. They specifically leaned into iCloud a lot. They said that there was over 10 terabytes of data from one iCloud account. So, which, listen, I can kind of see, the guy's a musician. He's probably got a ton of music, ton of video, raw video, and everything backed up there. But it's still a massive account. I know I've heard reports of them saying 10 terabytes of child porn. I don't think that's the case. I think it's a 10 terabyte account. So, yes, I think others are wrapped up in this. I think all his inner circle people have had all their accounts subject to search warrant, probably their social media accounts, and including his management.
I'm glad you mentioned. I mean, this is something we talked about previously. Prosecutors say he was in possession of child pornography. We don't know if it was allegedly of Celeste or someone else, but that was interesting and made me wonder if there could be federal
more than likely it's her.
For him. Real quick, if they unseal these search warrants, you, me, everyone's going to be able to see them.
We'll be able to see who they were served upon, and we'll be able to see what the return was. Not saying the data, but the return filed by the police saying we recovered, this account, data from this account, whatever. We'll see on a general basis, and we'll see who it was served upon, what they were looking for, and what the probable cause was, which is going to be the real tell in this thing, what the probable cause was to get the search warrant.
So I encourage you to check out that full interview. It's up right now on Long Crime's YouTube channel. We'll, of course, continue to follow this case, bring you any update.
All right, man. I think we got all caught up with everything going on with David, man. This one was off Law and Crime Network, man. Law and Crime Network, they've been keeping up with the David situation. I mean, if you don't catch me posting anything and you want to find out what's going on with David, feel free to check up on Law and Crime Network, because they are coming up with updates after updates for any little thing or big thing that comes up with David with David's situation, man. I mean, let me know what you think in the comments, man. What you think about this so far? This is super, super duper crazy, right? Super crazy, man. And it just sucks to that this is just like a living example of just like the forbidden fruit, you know? The forbidden fruit. Like you got this guy, he's on the come up, right? On the rise, right? He got a song that's being played in like Fortnite, and he had all this great stuff going for him. And he all he had to do was just choose a girl that was of age. That's all he had to do. But he decides to pick from from the forbidden basket, right? He meets a girl, I believe, on Discord named Celeste. She's 11 years old at the time. He keeps in contact with her or throughout that time, and then within about 2 years, he finally meets her in person and feels like this is a good time to actually meet her in person when she's 13 and you're 18, right? Like, did he really think that was a good idea? I don't understand that. All you have to do is find somebody his age, right? That's all you have to do. You could have found a girl that was 18, bro. Shit, I know even in some states, 17 is the legal age of consent. In some states. I know in New York it is. I don't know what it is in California. That's where he was in California. Hey, Google, what's the legal age of consent in California? Because every state is different. I know in New York and New Jersey, because I'm on the East Coast, so I know New York and New Jersey, the legal age is 17. And you got some states where the legal age is 16. I think Georgia it's 16, you know. But none of these states is 13 or 14. I'll tell you that. He couldn't just find a girl that was 18, bro. Like it doesn't make any sense. It's not like he would have had a trouble finding a girl. Like he's a famous, well, not, I'm not gonna say famous, but he's an upcoming artist who has a lot of fans, a lot of plays on the streams as far as music stream. Like he's doing so well. Like you can just pick one of your groupies that was 18 and up. I'm sure there was some girls that was 18 and up that was looking for him. I bet you at least a good number of them probably look like Celeste. They probably look like a Spanish light-skinned girl with curly hair. I mean, I don't know what their bond was. I don't know what they talked about that made him decide to basically crash course his whole career by messing with her. I don't know what they bonded over, but bro, you just pick it from forbidden fruit, bro. Forbidden fruit. Could have just picked somebody who was 18 and up. It's so stupid. He put that crazy risk on his life, and then she crashes out because she sees that he's not taking her seriously, and maybe she doesn't understand why. Maybe she doesn't understand why he can't take her seriously, or maybe she does understand why, but she's trying to maybe blackmail him into taking her seriously, which is a bad idea, right? It's an illogical idea. I'm gonna blackmail you into. It's like a, I don't know. I don't know what the catch 22. What does catch 22 mean? I'm thinking this might be a catch 22 situation. Hey Google, What's the definition of a catch-22? A catch-22 is a paradoxical situation where an individual cannot escape a problem because the only solution is blocked by a rule or condition that is part of the problem itself. It essentially describes a no-win scenario where the logic is circular. Yeah, this is literally a catch-22. So what do I mean by that? If she's blackmailing him with the idea that she is going to go public with their relationship unless he decides to stop dating other girls and to take her seriously. That's a lose-lose situation for him because if he says no, I can't take you seriously because you know your age, we can't go public. I can't take you seriously. Then she gets mad and then she starts going public with it, and then obviously that ruins his career, right? Or he says, okay, okay, all right, don't do that. All right, I'll take you seriously. He takes her seriously, and then he ends up getting caught up in the public eye. Like, hey, what are you doing with this girl that we've been seeing you with her for how long? We've been seeing videos of you with her, taking her places and all this extra stuff since she was like 13 years old and you was 18. He's gonna get caught later on eventually anyway. Because people were already catching on at this time. I believe other fans that were young was, I think, trolling him about this situation on Discord and social media. So it's like people were already catching on that were familiar with him and her interactions. So he was gonna lose if he said no, I can't take you seriously, and he was gonna lose if he said yes, okay, I'll take you seriously. Don't say nothing. Because, yeah, she's going to get what she wants, but then he's still going to get in trouble anyway, whether he tells or not, whether she tells or not. So she put him in a catch-22 situation when she crashed out about that. So he probably felt like, yo, I'm in a lose-lose situation. And then he got desperate and decided to get rid of her. That's crazy, bro. Anyway, let's get into the next topic. I played on this topic a little longer than I initially wanted to. L Nighter, what's up, man? Appreciate the follow, man. Right now we're just going over the David topic, man. We just went over this for like a cool hour.